facilitate and will help us with the session. She's a pillar of the module 4. So we have here our own Sarah Benz. Well, I'm saying our own, but our colleague Sarah Benz from Platforma. So if you want to introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Mariale, and hello to all. I know some of you, so most of you I don't, so it's a pleasure to get to meet you online, especially at this amazing occasion, which is the training of Module 4. It really has been an exciting and long process to build this module together between Platforma and the UCLG Learning team, with our partners as well from the different institutions who you've probably already heard of in the past 2 days. And it's really an honor for me to also put my new expertise acquired thanks to this module, thanks to the learning team from UCLG, into practice with you to help discover additional information on what it is to work on decentralized cooperation, how it is to link it up with the SDGs, and how both together can become an extraordinary source of means, of power, of information, of learning, of partnership, most of all. So it's going to be fun to do this with you. It's great to connect with the African continent, and it's great that you have been so actively engaged since the beginning. I remember Najat coming to me already at the UCLG retreat in Tanger last year, immediately with her business card saying, I want to be involved. The African continent needs to be involved because this is crucial for us. And it's great to see that you are really the first external partners we are working with for this module. We've tested this internally. We hope that the tests have been successful and that you are really gaining a lot from it, as much as we've gained actually, and that we will continue to learn from as well. So I'm going to stop here because it's a busy day and it's still a busy week, but I'm available for any questions that you may have, and happy to get to know all of you.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't think we have anybody else new, and if so, please let us know. So now I'm going to introduce Thierry Sansi-Bocali, which is part of the UCLG Africa team. He will be our moderator today. So Thierry, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, for your words. Actually, we are in time, 1 minute. Good morning. I hope you are feeling well today. We are on the 3rd day of our training, and we have already learned a lot, but there is still a long way to go until tomorrow. I will sum up the second day in a few words. Decentralized cooperation is active and dynamic. To carry it out, we need to define a content, allocate resources, and have a shared implementation plan. It is defined around typology, modality, and flows, and we need to identify them in order to use the right tools so that this cooperation is and remains mutually beneficial for the direct and indirect stakeholders. Today, our common learning will be about the definition of the decentralized cooperation. Julia, can you share the PPT? Okay. Okay. We talk about project, how you can define projects. We talk about funding, and we talk about partnership, how to mobilize partnership in the territory and beyond. We have 3 times during our day to go further and to see concretely how we can do I can do that. Next slide, please. I will go into the detail. Actually, you see how the agenda is organized. The first part is about the project. Sarah will talk about the framework. So again, about design and implementation. Q&A we will manage by Sogen and Sarah, and the team, UCLG team, will help you to do exercise about how to apply the project design. After that, 10 minutes of break. and we go to see how we can mobilize funding for decentralized cooperation initiative. It's so important because in most of our city, funding is a big issue. We rethink traditional notion about funding for decentralized cooperation. We see good practice shared by CUF and the Ministry of Interior of Morocco. And after that, we will do together a Mentimeter exercise animated by Sogen. And the third part of our exercise today is how who are working with, how we can mobilize stakeholders in the territory and beyond. The, this part of our meeting will be animated by Maria first, and we will learn from Platforma. Sarah will help you to know exactly how the SDG 17 will in the ground in the ground how we see how the SDG 17 work. After that, we check in on training challenge animated by Maria, and at the end of the day, the wrap up, reflection, and the preparation for day 4. Thank you, Maria. We are on time, and let me give the floor to Sarah. We go to your first part on the day, how to design an impactful SDG link for DC project. Sarah, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Thierry, and welcome everybody today with a lot of energy and I think also a lot of interest. We really felt that the day yesterday was quite engaging, and we appreciated all your contribution. So now we look into the design of a project. This is one of the key pieces because, of course, the project design is communicating what you will do, what are your interests. It is very important to have a good plan, so then you can follow and also rely on the steps, vitalize partnerships over the time, and also inform all the stakeholders. So when we do a design of a project, of course, there are methodologies, and so again, we'll go into this. But these 4 steps you see here in the slide are mainly in a timeline, because before you actually design a project, and this is very important in particular for the direct cooperation, because if we have a direct cooperation, the design is on the cities and the design is on you and on the partner. So if we would have indirect cooperation, then probably the design we will let the NGO, the partner, do, and this cycle is a little bit different. But just to explain these 4 steps that have been that is from experience, just a reminder, and this is actually an experience Sogen made a PhD on, and it's taken out of this work. So the most important pieces is not only to design, which are the 2 middle fields, but also invest in the intention and in the exit, in the post-implementation. So if I talk about the confirm your intention, so sometimes this takes a long time. And for example, we have seen when Charles was explaining the different twinning and the way how this decentralized cooperation has been evolving, we often have a given interest, because there was a twinning some 10 years ago and now we want to work. So that can be an interest, and this is a potential partner for a new project we might undergo. The same point is the type of collaboration. Are we able to manage our own project, or will we look for a partner? or for an NGO or for a United Nations agency to implement a project. So what kind of type we need, the modality, if we how do we also see the way who can invest in a project, who are other stakeholders, will we mainly want to learn, will we want to have an impact doing some project. So this is a long process, mainly not funded steps, because it's just coming together and seeing, okay, what can we do, what do we want to do, what do we need. So it's like matching the partnership, this first process. And it's very important to dedicate time to this, because if we do this participatory, for example, involving the council, involving politicians, involving key stakeholders, then these key stakeholders will feel committed to the project. And this is the first step, and it can take years or it can take months, but it's important that we have mainly the investment in this step is staff time and people who communicate and people who confirm relations. So that would be the first step. The second step is investing in the preparation. And here we have, of course, assessment, objective, project design, time frame, common funding. And for this step, there are methodologies that are already pre-designed. The most well-known is a log frame, and Sogen will go into detail what a log frame is, why we use it, and it is like getting to ground with the project ideas and frame them. And of course, then the implementation phase, which I will be explaining after. Sogen will give us the insight on the methodology. So Sogen, maybe the next slide and could be then taken over by you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. So when we're training out there, no doubt we'll come across a lot of practitioners who have all of the excitement and they just want to go ahead and get started. But I think the point that it's important for us in our training to make is that it's important to be able to take time and invest energy in thinking about how the decentralized cooperation, in particular linked to the SDGs, would actually pan out, right? So that's why we're spending lots of time this morning and in the module talking about two approaches. So essentially, there are two approaches. The first is what's called log frames, right? So it's short form for logical framework matrix. And there's a second approach, which is not as rigid, that's known as the learning approach. And we're going to go through each of these fairly quickly, although giving you some information that's going to help us to do our exercise shortly using the logical framework matrix that you see on the screen. For those of you who are experienced project managers, please, I humbly apologize if you know how to do a log framework. That's excellent, but perhaps it's a good refresher in any case. So let's look at this logical framework matrix. What is it, right? Essentially, as the name suggests, it helps with logical decision making. And the reason that we're also spending time on the slide is because it's used by development agencies all over the world. Historically, it comes from the military background. You know, the military is very precise and likes to work out all of the details in a very logical manner. So that's the history of the logical framework, right? Essentially, log frames are tools for project planning, as Sarah mentioned, in the planning phase, but also it's a tool to help monitor and evaluate, right? So just very quickly, what are some of the features of logical frameworks? Very importantly, it helps us understand defining the problem and how to intervene. It's very much goal-oriented. So you see at the top of the screen, top left goal, and I'll take you through that just now. It also helps our project managers to work out a hierarchy and establish a logical hierarchy. Right? It also helps to assign roles, it helps to monitor, it helps to work out assumptions, and very importantly, this is not on the screen now, but it's certainly in our module notes, it helps to identify potential risks. When you do a full log framework, it identifies what are the potential risks that you could encounter. Okay, so we understand why we're doing it. We understand some of the features. Now let's get into trying to make sense of this logical framework. There's two aspects around logic, right? There's a vertical logic from the top to bottom, and there's a horizontal logic, right? Moving from left to right on the screen. And there are different components. So starting right from the bottom there, there's things called activities. So there's activities, there's the concept of outputs. We decided to leave out another middle section in between. There's also a thing called intermediate results. There's outcomes and there's goals. And I think it's important for us just to do a quick refresher to understand what's the difference between a goal and outcome, a result and output and activity. I think it's useful to do this for our own knowledge, and particularly because all of us are going to break up into groups just now, and we're going to try and figure out what's the goal, what's the outcome, what's the output. Okay. What this slide doesn't show is that under the activities, you'll see there's also needs. And any project, in fact, anything in life starts with needs, okay? So I was thinking about this, how do I make this as practical as possible? And so if you'll allow me, I'm gonna give you a personal example. So right now, let's assume I missed breakfast. So what's my need right now? I'm hungry, right? And I have a need for a tasty sandwich. So that's my need. So over the next few minutes, maybe whilst you guys are on the group work, I can do some activities to fulfill the need, right? So if the need is to fulfill Sugen's hunger, there'll be a whole range of activities that needs to be done, which will explain all of the tasks that will deliver an output. So an activity will mean I have to rush downstairs, go to the fridge, open the fridge, take out some cheese, go to the bread basket, take out the bread, butter the bread, and do all of these activities, right, to fulfill a need. If I had to take a salami or a chicken, and because I'm vegetarian, and make an output, which is a sandwich, that won't fulfill my need. And often in decentralized cooperation, we don't respond to needs. So it's very important that all your activities would respond to a need. So in this case, the output will be a delicious cheese and tomato sandwich. Okay. So I've understand my need, done all the activities, I've produced the output. But what the log framework, and we're not covering it in this slide, also stresses is the need to take action. So Sugen will have to take that output and eat it, take action to actually eat it. That would be an intermediate result. Finally, the outcome, which is a medium-term result, will be Sugen to be well fed and his hunger satisfied, well, until lunchtime, that is, right? So that's my kind of outcome. And the goal, which would be a longer term development impact, will be to be a happy Sugen, right, in this example. And this will probably fulfill SDG 2, which is to do with hunger, I think. Okay, so that's a simple example. I'm trying to make it practical so that you understand the vertical logic of a need, activities, outputs, outcomes, and goals. However, the designers of the log frame also has a horizontal logic. So for each of these concepts of the goal, the outcome, the output, the activities, we have to work out what the indicators are and, unfortunately, a means of verification. And I know this can be really difficult and you have to have lots of creativity. You have to pull your team together to try and work out what an indicator would be and what a means of verification would be. But simply, an indicator will help you know how the goal is achieved, how the outcome is achieved, right? So for example, in the Sugen's example, the goal is to be a happy Sugen. If some funders had to come here, so my grand uncle or my grandfather is coming to audit Sugen to say, how do we know Sugen's really happy? The indicator would be that Sugen is smiling. So that's a good indicator. But a means of verification, so the uncle can go back and tell my grandfather that Sugen's really happy, you have to take a photograph. So you can click and take a photograph. That's a means of verification. Okay, I'm giving you silly examples just so that you can understand when you're using your example. So outcome to be well fed, what could be an outcome indicator? Sugen will report that he is nice and full, And hey, he even burped, and we saw him burp. So that's an indicator. A means of verification, Sugen can submit an interview statement to say, I am well fed, right? So for each of these, using whatever decentralized cooperation project, you need to think about what's the goal, what can be a tangible indicator, and what would be a means of verification to test, to verify, to audit. Why are we stressing this? Because a lot of decentralized cooperation projects, I wouldn't say a lot, some of them are funded, and it's always good to have funding, right, Fernando? But sometimes when we don't have funding, we also can make a plan. But funders will insist that if you accountable for public funds, you need to be clear, you need to have indicators, and they will have auditors to check your means of verification. Hence, this is really important. So in a nutshell, that's how we go about doing the logical framework matrix. Quickly, what are some of the challenges? Some of the terms can be confusing, right? And we acknowledge this, so it's really important that your project team, or when you're training, for you to emphasize that the teams who are actually doing decentralized cooperation must understand each of the concepts, and they must have a good understanding of how they understand it, right? I think another challenge is that it is a little bit rigid for changing contexts, such as those of us working in the developing world. It can be, I must admit, a little bit rigid, and the log frame kind of overlooks some of the complexity, overlooks having multi-stakeholder approaches. It also kind of simplifies a complex process, right? And it can also be complicated and messy. So myself, just to say this is my personal view, we do have quite a lot of challenges when we're doing log frameworks, but if the donor agencies insist, then we have to comply, right? But it is what it is. So I think also in terms of how it links with the SDGs, and in this module, we're making a conscious effort to link it with the SDGs. I think the logical framework sets very clear parameters and makes it easy to link to the SDGs. It really helps our outputs. It helps define the results. It helps define the outcomes, which is very, very good. And I think also it does help you to remain aware of the bigger picture. So when you're doing decentralized cooperation, you've got a logical framework, you're always keeping your eye on the ball in terms of whether you're making decisions around outcomes. Okay, so that's the logical framework matrix. The next approach, and if we can just change the slide. So you'll see on the top, I'm just comparing very quickly the logical framework, which is in the top half, talking about objectives, making a lot of inputs, producing an output, having a set of indicators, coming up with a clear outcome. Almost very linear, very military precision, all laid out, right? So that was the logical framework. There's another approach called the learning approach. And the learning approach, which is indicated in the next, in the bottom half there, I think this is a lot more relaxed. It's more participatory. It's very much participatory. The approach is very participatory. It allows a lot more for consideration of the social factors. It builds on the existing structures. It looks at the institution that's doing it. It builds on the strength of those institutions as well. Its design is a lot more flexible. It looks at each of the premises. It goes back and it changes, very responsive to changing needs. It changes as a result of peer learning, people sitting together, and as you learn, and it changes during the execution. The challenge with such a lovely, easy, flexible approach, it will require lots of investment in time and resources, and the indicators are difficult to align to the SDGs, right? So in essence, and I know I rushed through it because I had a kind of 8-minute to 10-minute time slot, I hope that you have a good sense now of how to do a logical framework and a quick introduction to the learning approach, which big organizations like VNG and others are strongly advocating. And all of the details, dear colleagues, I must stress this, all of this information is in our learning guide. Thanks, and I'll hand back to Sarah.
Thank you very, very much, Sugen. And I think it was extremely well illustrated because, of course, a log frame, as Sugen said, it helps strategic thinking and order. It's really like boxing, and as it is a frame, the vertical and horizontal thinking is also providing a checklist. But in our experience, for example, when I was working log frames, sometimes it's a month only writing the log frame and the project. And if the project is larger, and if the donor, who like a lot the means of verification and the indicators, and if that donor is very picky, later you feel like in a prison. And the log frame is like the windows of the prison, because you want to do other activities and you can't, because the donor wants your means of verification. So the log frame as an exercise, I think, is crucial, and everybody who works in decentralized cooperation or strategic planning is appreciating it, because it helps to order ideas. But the learning approach, as Sogen explained, this, of course, for the decentralized cooperation and networking seems to be quite interesting, but I think the weaknesses you highlighted are clearly that sometimes there is misunderstanding, misconceptions. You do not know where you are sometimes, because the definition between outcome and output, this is an important learning, because for projects, it brings you towards more impact. And all this is really helpful. But this logical, this learning approach, it's also called change management. So if you want to look at it more, you can look also in management philosophy and management theory. This is it is because the effectiveness of change management approach is that you change people, you go with the people, you have much more feedback. And of course, this is not such a long theory as a log frame, but it is important to keep in mind, because the advocacy with many donors goes, please let us make more open project design, and then change management is important. Maybe we can go back to the slide. We have a fourth step, which I do not want to leave beside. Julia, can you? Yeah. Okay, if we look back, now we have been looking from that steps. We have seen the entrance. We have seen investing in preparation. This is the frames. Now, when we care for enabling condition for implementation, this is of course possible in any of the both approach. This is once you have the project and you are implementing the project. So here the point is, first, to keep in mind, between project design and implementation, you might have 1 year. It depends if there is funding, how long it takes until the project really starts. You might have change in the municipalities. So what is the most important here? To build trust, to remobilize leaders, to commit now to implementation, to ensure that the peers have a similar worldview, because of course, if you have in particular a project, for example, like the one we see now, it's important you have this understanding and you have empathy between the peers. The documenting of all steps, this is one thing that is so crucial and not done enough, and we only can insist. I mean, documentation helps not only you, every partner. If you are going out, somebody takes over. Documentation is not a point only donors want. Documentation helps to everybody involved in the project. Also, it prepares the documentation for the citizens, because actually often these projects have a lot of interest, even if they are small, but if they are well documented, then you can also communicate them better. And innovate methodology. So even if the project is designed in a log frame, for example, we have designed a big project on migration some 5 or 6 years ago. It was amazing work of Logframe, but of course we see that to get to this end and even to achieve the indicator, we have always to change methodologies, and in particular with COVID, this is totally obvious. But every project in the end allows, and the good documented project also allows change outputs and outcomes if it is needed, because there are always review processes. So that part is a care for enabling the conditions for implementation. So even if it is an outsourced, if you have an NGO running it or an implementing partner, a delegated cooperation, it is important that if it's for the municipality, we keep an eye on all this. And the final phase is the post-implementation. So that post-implementation is very, very important. If there is no post-implementation, many of us would not be here, because actually the post-implementation is first the exit strategy of a project, so that it's not perceived, okay, now you leave me alone and I'm now here, I have to get everything done by myself, or the other partner says, no, now it's enough, I cannot always look at you. So how do you exit? No? So in order to not overburden partnership, and I think Geneviève yesterday gave a good example when she is talking every half year or sometimes once a year only, talks to the partner, how are you? That is very crucial. This is a simple but constant communication. It can be phone calls. It is not necessary to do a big thing. Of course, conducting an impact assessment sounds a bit more. And of course, this is also, if it's a big project, it makes a lot of sense. And the impact assessment, I think it's good to have impact assessments, because in particular, decentralized cooperation often is sounding after many years. They're still sounding because the memory of the partners, for example, having these visits of the mayors, the political impact, the newspaper. So people were really informed, even if it was small projects, you have a sounding years after. So the impact assessment is something positive. And if donors do an impact assessment, it's often then later you have a chance, you have a visibility. So it is not necessarily only, of course, also it is controlling the funding and the activities and make a check. But most of the impact assessments can be very, very positive. So these steps we do not want to leave aside, because while that log frame and change management design, we now go into it with a group work. We have that is of course methodology and the logic and the desk work, and can be done by a small team. This two other entrance and exit is very important to involve also international relations. If you have to involve maybe counselors interested in partnerships, so that this the intention is there. Because also now in this network era where we are in, for example, the mayor of Matola, he is a leader now in our network, and this is a post-implementation investment of ANAM and of Matola to sometimes say, oh yeah, here he is and he has done good stuff, have a look. So it is informing, and the same post-implementation is also a preparation for further cooperation, because we many of the city partnerships go over decades, and so the cycle might start again. The post-implementation can become an intention phase again. So yeah, these were the key parts. And here now we are looking to a project, and in the exercise we have prepared, you have now a project, and we will apply the logic of the log frame in a real project. For this, we also go again into our mural. So for those of you who have not tried, this is a good moment to try, because we have to fill in the log frame many, many squares. And the idea is here to write up if not, if you don't familiar, don't worry. But it's an interactive exercise to really ensure first the comprehension of the sandwich of SOGAN now applying to a project. And the second is, of course, to test this over time, you will see. So I think I leave it here, Maria Alejandra, if you agree, because the rest will be done by the facilitators of the group work, and we will be divided again in groups. We will have, let me check how many minutes for the group work. I have to check.
The exercise, all of the exercise is 1 hour.
So that is plenty of time. So please take also the chance to know your peers better, because you are working in a peer group now in the breakout. And yeah, we hope you like the project and you feel this is a relevant project similar to things you can that might appear in your cities. The facilitator will do the introduction so that everybody is informed and guide you through.
Also, just to notice that we are going to be working on a case study that you have received by email, in the email that we sent this morning. So that is also, if you want to accompany and have a reference, you have it in your email. If you don't, please let me know by chat and I will send it to you. So I think we are ready to go to the groups. So enjoy the exercise, if you allow us, Valeria.
Good, 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 good.
We're back. Sarah, you want to lead this part?
Okay. So, yeah, we had a very interesting discussion, a lot of challenges, because really everybody was with us in the mural. So thank you very much. I mean, we never know how our future is and if this kind of tools will be helpful, no? But for this training, it's the only way how we can work. You all see that if it is a live session, if it is a workshop, some exercises will be more fun. But of course, I think at least in my group, they have done a great job. In the group 1, there is a reporter, Istirafalo. Do we already have reporters for the other groups? Good. So yeah, I think we have all the same starting point, the center of hope. And we will focus now when the groups will present what has been the discussion, what is maybe the angle besides the gender angle that is very obvious. And then in particular, after the shock or the news, the bad news, what happened? So who wants to start? If there's somebody who really would like to start, raise your hand. Yes, Oscar, you want to start. That is very nice. I will ask you to be short.
Sarah, just to highlight, Oscar was with me in our group who was super dynamic. So well done to all of you. And he will be co-presenting the results together with Josephine, because we really worked in a spirit of partnership in our group. So they're going to split together, Josephine and Oscar, the results of our.
Excellent. So, but please, the whole presentation should not be longer than 4 minutes. Is it possible? Good. Start now. Oscar, floor is yours. And after this, we will have Tirafalo from our group.
Thank you, Sarah, for allowing this opportunity on behalf of the group. It was group 4. We worked on the log frame for this interesting project on of the Center of Hope for Cape Town municipality, with the support of the Dutch development partners. So for the 3 years program, we I don't know if my colleague, I hope you can see the screen, and I don't know if you can zoom in. Okay, thank you. So based on the assessment of the main issues at hand, especially around the problem of gender-based violence in the area and the issue faced by women, we, based on this analysis, we propose a number of activities that could help to deliver some chain of results. Starting with the activities, we identified some activity linked to actually explanation of the intervention or task that could deliver some output. So as part of the activity, quickly, I can just say we, of course, to propose activity of capacity building, training local women to become local entrepreneurs, so that they can be really more empowered to do their own business, be less dependent on other people, which sometimes also create this situation of vulnerability that allow more situation of gender-based violence. So, of course, this is one of the big activities, but also we, depending on considering the time we had, we could not elaborate much on other activities, but this was one of the activities. But we also consider that there will be other activity like with the Center of Hope, the construction of this facility where women could come and receive some services, or youth in the area, and other elements. So for this training or capacity building, there are a number of indicators that were proposed to really assure that we can know if this training could deliver some results, or if they happen. So we consider as indicators the number of women trained, and also the tools that will be developed actually to support or to allow this capacity building to be achieved. So we consider that such activities could contribute mainly on certain SDGs, as we are discussing about localizing SDGs or mainstreaming the SDGs under this activity. We consider this
2 minutes. If Josephine will intervene, just to
yes. So you can see the SDGs. My colleague can proceed with the output considered. Josephine, over to you.
All right. So for these activities in this project, we'll actually have outputs. And we had a lot in mind, but because of time, as Oscar said, we came up with one where we'll see women setting up local enterprises. This will be a show that there has been some capacity building that has taken place. And one of the indicators is that there will be an increase in financial freedom of women in Mitchell's plan. Okay, so I think Oscar can go forward with the next. For the outcome. Okay, we just wrap up. Okay, on the outputs, I almost forgot that the SDG will be SDG 9, meaning there will be some innovation and, industry rise. Okay, and then on the outcome, women will have financial freedom as a result of the training. There will be, you will see an indicator, you see a lot of women who will be successful entrepreneurs, so to say, with their own successful enterprises. And there will also be a rise of a number of enterprises of these women. Okay, I'll on the go. Sorry, since we only have about 2 minutes.
You have 1 minute left. Less than
okay, on the go, so the main goal, the main SDG here will be gender equality. The main goal will be that there will be safer and more inclusive gender equality and a more inclusive gender society, gender equal society, where women will not be feeling vulnerable and won't be susceptible to GBV in Mitchell's plan. Yeah, so they actually, yes, there will be less reporting on victims' support as well concerning GBV. This will be a means of verification. So basically, yeah, that's that.
Maybe to add on this, we can just say that also in the situation of trying to adapt to a situation of pandemic-like situation that will strike and affect the project delivery process, we just propose that we could try to adapt activities, maybe going to more digitalized or more virtual trainings, as we say that the main activity was about training, and also engage some stakeholders who would support this process, like private sector, academia, or other stakeholders who help to actually to support this mitigation process. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was very, very good output. We try to make an applause, those who want to applaud. Yeah. And we would then go to group 1. This is our group. I don't see her.
I'm here.
Ah, good. Okay, Tirafalo, go ahead.
Okay, can my friend share the screen for the mural? Thank you.
Wait
thank
a second. Wait, where is it? Okay, there you go.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to present on behalf of Group 1. Group 1, we're focusing mainly on developing a counseling center which is combined with training components for the girl child and the women. Our main goal was to address goal number 5 in terms of the SDGs, and goal number 3 specifically looking into reducing gender violence and substance abuse. In terms of the outcomes, the SDGs that we'll be addressing is SDG 8. Here, we wanted to increase labor opportunities and contractual conditions for the women and the girl child mostly. And then also goal number 10, to reduce inequalities, and goal number 5. The other aim was to increase skills and also economic empowerment for the girl child and the women. The indicators are there. In terms of the outcome, we have new job opportunities, we bridge the salary gap, and also we have empowered women and girls. In terms of the outputs, okay, we decided that we will have units for counseling sessions, and also we'll have training programs. And let's continue. We'll also have professional coaches who will be assigned to counsel the women and the girls who have been abused. And also we have exhibitions to show talents that have been acquired from the trainings that we'll be doing. So we'll be addressing sustainable goal number 4, number 8, and number 5. And the indicators are there, the number of women and girls who will be counseled, and also the number of women and girls who will be trained, and the coachings. And also in terms of the activities, we came with a number of activities. There will be conduction of daily trainings for a period of 3 hours per day. There will be visitations by entrepreneurs and employers who will be coming to see what our members that we have trained have acquired, the skills that they have acquired, and also whatever they could have done. And also there will be medical and psychological counseling or attention given to the women that will be abused for 2 days in a week, and also preparation for exhibitions whereby we'll be showcasing the talent that have been acquired. The far end, we were showing okay, anyway, let me pass. Okay, in terms of the focusing on the on what we'll do in case of a lockdown or a COVID pandemic, we changed the goalposts. We reviewed and realized that if we stick to the logical framework that we did at first, we won't be able to achieve what we want. So here we're saying that we'll now be concentrating mostly on virtual exhibitions. We'll be enlarging our partners, like engaging the universities, whereby they will provide voluntary work so that we can be able to achieve what we want to achieve here. And also we looked into issues of coming up with new communication ways about violence, and also establishing safe homes for those that will be abused. And also we looked into enlarging our partnerships, like engaging the LAs, as we know that the local authorities work together with the communities. Yes, and also engaging the students through the internship programs.
Can you say one sentence on the change management and then conclude?
Okay. What did we say on the change management?
Yeah, the log frame and the change management, the loops.
Okay, on the loops, we were saying that the activities will be more virtual, and also we'll have extended partnerships to ensure that we have more voluntary work that is done, because we won't be able to do what we wanted to do at first when there's no the flash news.
Excellent.
I think my members can add on.
Well, I think you first deserve a great applause. You also have been in time, so very good. Is there anything missing? If not, we would go to the next group. It would be Lee.
Yeah, Lee just told me that his internet is not good. I'm trying here to to indicate another one.
Okay, then we go first to the next group. The group Sophie.
Lee, can you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, can you put the screen on?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome.
It's already. Thank you, Lee. Great.
Thank you very much. And can you zoom it up a little bit? Zoom in. Hello?
Yes, we hear you. We hear you.
Yeah, okay. Right. Thank you very much. I would start with the goal, and actually our project has been looking at the SDG 5, which is gender equality, premised on the goal of reducing GBV in the Mitchell Plain in Cape Town, South Africa. We on the outcomes, we have empowering of women, girls, men, and boys as our outcome. Then we also, under the outcome, city peer learning between Cape Town and Cape Town and DEFT. Then if we go to the outputs, we have the organized, in terms of the outputs from the project, we have some organized seminars, design plans for spaces, because we are looking at reducing gender-based violence. We need to create spaces for women and girls. We also have, in terms of outputs, organized meetings with stakeholders, as well as designing modules for training. Then in terms of activities, we have the preparation and design of a 3-year program. That program being an MOU between Cape Town and the DEFT town. So precisely that's what our project is all about. Then if you can go up again to the goal, so that I'll go to the other side of the log frame. And also you will realize also that we have a mix of both the log frame approach as well as the learning approach in this project. As you can see that we have training programs that are, yeah, can you zoom in, please? In terms of our indicators, they are listed there on the right-hand side of the, I'll not go much on the related indicators, but the means of verification. We have family protection units reports that will report on the GBV, reports from universities and academia. We will also be participating in the valuation of the project. Then ToT, number of people that have been certified to also cascade training in the communities to empower these women. Then we also have for our project, for the activities, the means of verification will be like the list of participants, the actual training plan, as well as the curriculum vitae for the participants to this training. Then finally, in terms of the SDGs that will be implemented, we have among them 17 SDG 5, and if you can also zoom in a little, 13, 11, 1, and 16. These are the project, the SDGs that have been implemented or that actually been implemented by the program. So in short, that's the program that we've been looking at.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and sorry for rushing you, but also for us as trainer, we always measure our time and we very often mistake, I have to say. Yeah? So some of our team members, for example, we used to talk long. That's why we control time, not because it's not interesting, but because we learn to be short. So the last, first, I think you have done a great job. Wonderful. Also, SDG 16 and 17 appeared so strong. I think this was maybe missing in the former groups. Huh? So very good, very well done. And also the ideas to reach out using the ToT. This is also a brilliant idea. So nice. Thank you very, very much. So now we go to the group 3 with Kofi and Andrew. Please also keep time in and go ahead. The floor is yours.
I think they were having some trouble connecting. We have very active participants, but apparently very shy participants when presenting in public. So they told me they cannot. I don't know if Merci, if you're available, or maybe Genevieve. Because we did a very nice exercise and I think you deserve to present it.
Merci. Say in the chat is in meeting with the mayor.
Okay.
The mayor. Andrew, I promise I will not interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Okay, let me take this up. I hope my line doesn't go off due to internet connectivity. This is Kofi speaking. Our group 3, looked at the safe, as in Hope City, and gender equality. That's SDG 5. That's what we worked on. The long-term goal for the project was to have a safer and conducive environment that promotes gender equality. As part of the related indicators, we wanted to have an increased proportion of women in public sector and a decrease of gender-related violent cases. Means of verification for this, wow, sorry, I need to get back my screen. Sorry, please, let me just get back. A minute, please. Okay, means of verification. Damn. A minute, I'll be back soon, please. Sorry. The means of verification has to do with the composition of committees based on statistics and data. That's in terms of increasing women in public sector. In terms of gender-related violence, we look at the data and compare with the police and other organizations. When it comes to the outcome, that's the medium-term results. We linked 4 SDGs to it, and these are SDG 8, SDG 4, SDG 5, and SDG 10. Here, we are looking at young men and women to be economically empowered. And we are looking at stronger education structures for all. For their related indicators, the young men and women, there will be a decrease in youth unemployment. And for their economic empowerment, there will be an increase in household incomes and expenditure. This can be, means of verification, that is statistics from the local authorities and national authorities, academia and institutions. And when it comes to the stronger institutions, for the indicators, you see an increased number of girls finishing tertiary education, and there'll be a legal framework in place for better education and related policies. Means of verification will be the decreased statistics rate of girls getting pregnant and verifying national policies related to girls' education. When we come to the outputs, we linked 4 SDGs to the outputs. That is 1, quality education, that's SDG 4. SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, and SDG 9, that's industry, innovation, and infrastructure. With the description, you have the infrastructure being the infrastructure for implementation, that's the center of hope, and be visible. And there will also be specific training courses with partner institutions, which will be held at the center of hope. As an indicator, related indicator, we will get to the number of people using the center. Means of verification will be statistics as well. Then we come back to the activities which will help us in implementing the project. So we looked at holding a multi-stakeholders forum to explain it to the people who will be inviting for such forums on the project we want to commence on. And I'm aware of related indicators will be the number of media houses which will be disseminating invitations for the forum. The means of verification will be the reports, interviews, and media appearances. One last, I'm lost, so I'm not getting my information well. And we had an issue with we talked about the flash news, and we came up with some. Yep. That's the flash news. Okay. Yes, we are thinking about what happens if there's COVID and what we had to do. So one of the issues we came up with involving new stakeholders, looking into faith and community-based organizations to be involved to help us in implementing the project. That's in case there's a rise in the domestic violence due to COVID and our program is not able to run as how it's supposed to run. So we thought of using community-based faith organizations and other stakeholders in the community. We realized that we need to rethink the use of physical building given lack of funds. And there was also adaptation to training of virtual forms and the need to reinforce capabilities in technology so that we can still get our audience target and make sure that whatever we want to impact onto them has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was excellent presentation. I can also only applaud you. It was very, very well done. And I think also it was very helpful. You explained a little bit on the indicator issue, no? Because here we can also observe making a framework takes time, but brings us to think about indicators a lot. And I think there were many insights in your presentations on this particular issue. So well done, Kofi and all the others. I think now we are a little bit over time, 15 minutes, because yeah, I think the group work is always very rich, and maybe we stayed a little bit back in the groups. However, you have deserved 10 minutes to rest. So we will be back here at 11 or 12. 25. Yeah?
11:25, yes.
Okay. For you, maybe 10:25. Thank you so much. And after this break, Thierry will, of course, announce again, but we will look into finance and also into a partnership. So don't miss it. It will be very interesting. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so again. Thank you, Fernando, for the interpretation.
Thank you. Everything ready.
Fernando, we can begin. It's time.
Yeah, I think everyone is now ready, right?
Right. Good.
Great.
Can you activate your camera? We will see if we are all here. We will check.
Right here.
Hi.
Hi.
Now the translation is activated, and we have two presenters will do in French, but we can use the globe and choose English to listen that presentation. Let me give the floor to Fernando. Actually, we are in the second part of our training to how to mobilize funding for decentralized cooperation initiative. Fernando, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Thierry. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you about this. Just before starting, just to comment that these contents that I will talk about, they are all on the pages 70 to 73 of the module. So like any other content that we are doing here, they are on the module and they are very well explained by Sogen, their team, and they were curated by us too. So everything I'm talking here, I'm not inventing some of this, but not all, and they are not they are all in the module. Okay, so this part is one of the most important parts of the module, in my opinion, because as trainers you will have a lot of questions about the funding. So this rethinking the traditional ways of funding the centralized cooperation programs and projects with the SDGs, they gain another dimensions. So here we will talk a little bit about what we are passing through on the funding and some tips to find different sources of funding too. So this goes to in this new, as I talked before and yesterday, and so again commented today too, this new thinking goes beyond the international donor funding. So we have to look for good practices of funding from Global South too, and mobilizing also other resources. And you as trainers, future trainers, you have to, it's very important, you have to manage expectations about international funding for DC projects, because this is the most traditional way and what everyone as trainees are expecting to learn. How will I be funded? And this is not an easy answer to answer. How do I fund DC initiatives? It's not easy, because it's important to consider that since 2008, the donors and the funding are more difficult to access. And now with the COVID, the situation is more difficult. You have greater competition for the funds and for the funding of financial resources. So here we have to find and we have to make sure that our trainees, future trainers, they are open to search for essentially local and regional governance partnerships. And there are a lot that work on the strengthening of democracy, human rights, and SDGs, and for not only for the financial part of the resources, but also and mainly for the development of greater local public services. And so here, the SDGs also highlight it's fundamental to adopt multi-stakeholder approach, as we have seen in the projects that we just designed this morning, looking for another kind of partnerships in the civil society, in the with universities. And this is what the SDG 17 is all about. So we will see more with Najat when we talk about the chapter 5, and we will see also about how we can do the stakeholder mapping to find new partnerships. But more than just expecting the funding of only one partner, it is important for us to try to find different resources of multiple partners. So here we also indicate some tips that to find these other kind of funding resources. So the first tip here, the next slide, please, is to design, as we did today, to design a clear plan for DC to facilitate the achievement of the SDGs is fundamental. It's the first thing we have to do, is to have a clear idea about our plan, not only for a decentralized cooperation project, but also for a decentralized cooperation policy, with the phases of the policy, the steps to be taken, with more systematic process of what we want to achieve with a decentralized cooperation policy or project. Second one, to contribute our own LRG funding towards a DC program to achieve the SDGs. So as we always, and it's famous, the example of, for instance, the Spanish funds, not all the Spanish funds, about the 0.7% of the, thank you, Thierry, just finishing, but the budget about decentralized cooperation, but if we don't have 0.7%, but if we have 0.0000001% for DC in our own budget, or we can do like a regional fund for decentralized cooperation, as Mercosul, for instance, is trying to do, even if it's not a lot of money available, if we have only the intention of a budget, I think it's just a beginning. So ending here in 1 minute, there are another tips: the mobilizing philanthropic finance to engage local partnerships, the harnessing resources for academic and research, as we just commented before, the matching budget support from potential partner development partners, engaging local government association and national ministries. That's the example we're going to see with Simone and the Moroccan ministry, following this these descriptions here. And at last, identifying local political leaders as spokespersons or champions is a part of the campaigning for SDGs and the awareness raising in our own society. So here I pass. I don't know if Thierry wants to comment or something, or we can already pass to Simone to talk a little bit about the Cités Unifrance experience on the. Thierry, I pass to you.
Simone Govetti, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hi, did you see me?
Yes, we see you.
Okay.
You talk in French or English?
As you prefer. Really, I can present in English or in French.
In English, please.
All right.
Okay. You have 8 minutes.
Yes, great. So I don't know if Fernando succeeded to maybe start with a short 1 minute video that introduced my presentation. Thank you very much, Fernando. In the context of decentralized cooperation, this specific action is a kind of new tool that we try to support in UCLG, and we use already in Cité Unifrance, that is a association of French local authority that are engaged on partnership, decentralized cooperation for a long term. So I think that Fernando wanted to have a small session on this particular tool that is we decide to propose to UCLG in order to act when there is a major crisis somewhere on the world, and in order to come together to help local authorities that are affected by a crisis. We would like to give them the tools to respond to the crisis and to help their own citizens. It's true that often when there is a major crisis, international community came on the ground, and often with a huge amount of resources, and they replace by the fact the local authority on the job that should be his own job, help the territory to be reconstructed, or even to help the people that has been affected. In this sense, we decided to bring it at the world level, a tool that we have already in France, that is the Solidarity Fund initiative in France. And we hope tomorrow in the UCLG as a big family, when there is a crisis, we call for solidarity to our member, and we encourage them to have one big action to implement together, and we go directly to the most affected, the local authorities, depending on the type of crisis, and with their national association, to identify with them what they are need from their point of view, because they know the territory, they know the needs. And we already started with some examples, and there are running activities, for instance, in Lebanon at this time, but also in Africa, in Ghana and in Mali. Sometimes there are a small amount of money, but we really see results that are very important, because the targets of that are chosen by local authorities are often activities that want to support the logic of the development of the territory before the crisis. So when we do the project lasts also after when the crisis is done. So it's not a humanitarian approach, it's just a solidarity that is mobilized during a crisis with a view of long-term view. Behind this tool, there is also always a hope to establish a decentralized cooperation partnership with the city that we help. Having on board many local authorities, potentially coming from different countries in the world, that want to help during a crisis for a program that generally lasts 2-3 years, finally, it's also a chance to establish a link between a city in the world and the city that has been helped. And if this link is established, a new decentralized cooperation born, and a very long-term relationship can be built. I think I have my 5 minutes done. But if you have any question about the tool or this particular kind of activities, please, you can ask. And if I'm not complete exactly what you want to earn, Fernando, please also tell me if it's okay for you.
Thank you, Simone, for your presentation. Let me give the floor to the next presenter, and we have 1 or 2 minutes to discuss, ask questions. I see in the chat, Dr. Zarouk. Kofi, Dr. Zarouk.
Tu l'as mis sur... D'accord. Alors, donnez-moi le truc là. Avec,
Vous avez 8 minutes.
OK. Juste une minute, s'il vous plaît.
Just
You
to
will have,
tell you.
Maria, you will have the presentation in English on the screen.
Yeah, and Kofi also has the co-host.
And
Okay.
Mr. Mustafa will speak in French. C'est bon? C'est projeté là?
Kofi also has the co-host if you want to, if you want to share too.
Just 1 second. Can you give us co-host for UCLG Africa, please?
It's already. You are.
Done?
It's okay.
No?
No.
L'écran.
Kofi and UCLG Africa.
It's okay.
Okay.
So do you see the screen now?
Yes, you have 8 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thierry, the floor is yours, please. Just to announce, Mr. Amr, please.
Okay. Let me introduce the next presenter, Mr. Mustafa Amers from Morocco. They will present in French, if I remember. Use the globe to the translation. Mr. Amer, you have a flow. Monsieur Amer, vous pouvez y aller.
Le Fonds africain d'appui à la coopération décentralisée internationale de politique territoriale. Ce fonds a été mis en place par le ministère de l'Intérieur en mars 2020. Et comme vous le savez, le Maroc a toujours accordé une importance très particulière à la coopération sud-sud et a placé l'Afrique au cœur des priorités de sa politique étrangère. Je vais la citer, un passage du discours royal devant le 28e sommet de l'Union africaine, tenu le 31 octobre 2017, où Sa Majesté le Roi avait dit « Ma vision de la coopération sud-sud est claire et constante. Mon pays partage ce qu'il a sans ostentation. Mon pays opte pour le partage et le transfert de son savoir-faire. Il propose de bâtir concrètement un avenir solidaire et sûr. » Fin de citation. C'est dans cette optique-là et dans un engagement soutenu et d'une volonté renouvelée de faire la différence que le ministère de l'Intérieur, par le biais de la Direction générale des collectivités territoriales, a mis en place ce qu'on appelle maintenant le Fonds africain d'appui à la coopération décentralisée internationale des collectivités territoriales pour permettre à ces dernières de suivre la politique de l'État en matière de développement et de la coopération sud-sud. Donc, quels sont les objectifs de ce fonds? Donc, ce fonds qui a été mis en place a pour principaux objectifs d'orienter la coopération décentralisée vers un partenariat stratégique avec les collectivités territoriales africaines, inscrire la coopération décentralisée dans la dynamique de la décentralisation et du développement local et du renforcement des capacités, traduire dans les projets et actions à mener à travers le renforcement des capacités et le transfert de savoir et savoir-faire, l'amélioration des conditions de vie des populations, et l'accès aux services essentiels de base, ainsi que la création de l'emploi. Inscrire la coopération décentralisée internationale dans la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable et et favoriser la coopération dite triangulaire en mettant en œuvre une concertation entre les collectivités territoriales du Sud et les partenaires de la coopération décentralisée internationale. Quels sont les acteurs de ce fonds? Nous avons 3 acteurs principaux. Il y a d'abord la Direction générale de collectivités territoriales relevant du ministère de l'Intérieur, qui est le gestionnaire du fonds. Elle a pour mission elle lance annuellement les appels à projets, elle évalue les projets ou actions à réaliser dans le cadre du fonds, et elle veille sur l'ensemble des étapes de réalisation des projets à action et apporte bien sûr un appui financier conséquent pour la réalisation des projets ou actions. Le deuxième acteur, c'est la collectivité territoriale marocaine, qui est la collectivité pivot. Cette collectivité établit le cadre de partenariat en recherche entre des partenaires africains, contribue au financement du projet, fournit l'expertise technique nécessaire et s'assure que les activités menées sont cohérentes avec les objectifs tracés initialement. Le troisième acteur, c'est la collectivité territoriale africaine qui est le bénéficiaire direct et exclusif de l'appui du fonds. Cette collectivité formule la demande de partenariat, élabore le projet ou l'action et le cas échéant demande d'assistance technique à la collectivité territoriale nationale, œuvre à la réalisation des projets et suit et évalue le projet ou l'action réalisée. Quels sont les domaines dans lesquels le fonds peut intervenir? Nous avons une panoplie de domaines dans lesquels le fonds peut intervenir. Il y a d'abord la planification et l'aménagement du territoire, l'appui aux services de base rendus aux citoyens, le renforcement institutionnel des collectivités territoriales, le transfert des connaissances, du savoir et savoir-faire en matière de gestion des collectivités territoriales, le développement durable, la formation et le renforcement des capacités des élus et des cadres territoriaux, l'amélioration des conditions de vie des populations, les études de faisabilité, ainsi que l'octroi de bourses de formation diplômante et de perfectionnement, ainsi que l'employabilité des jeunes. Bien sûr, nous ne sommes pas financés par ce fonds. Toutes les dépenses effectuées avant l'octroi, par exemple, de l'appui du fonds, le paiement des salaires des fonctionnaires et les dépenses qui ne sont pas liées directement au projet ou action programmée. Maintenant, comment ce fonds peut-il contribuer à la réalisation de projets ou actions? D'abord, la collectivité territoriale nationale doit mobiliser au minimum 30% du montant global de l'action ou du projet. La collectivité territoriale africaine peut mobiliser, doit mobiliser elle aussi au moins 10% du coût du projet ou action, sachant pertinemment que ces mobilisations peuvent se faire en nature, par exemple, et ils seront comptabilisés, reconvertis au numéraire et comptabilisés dans le montage financier du projet. Par contre, le fonds, là, il intervient au maximum à 60% du coût global du projet, à condition que cette participation ne dépasse pas 2,4 millions de dirhams, soit l'équivalent de 230 000 € par action au projet programme. Donc, la mise en place de la contribution de fonds ne peut se faire que lorsque le montage financier du projet est bouclé. Maintenant, comment formuler le dossier d'appui du fonds? Bien sûr, au préalable, il faudrait qu'il y ait un partenariat entre les deux collectivités territoriales marocaines et africaines. Il y a un formulaire à remplir. Il y a une lettre conjointe d'engagement des deux présidents des collectivités territoriales dans laquelle ils s'engagent à mobiliser leur quote-part et à réaliser le projet selon les règles de l'art. Il y a une note de cadrage sur le projet, les objectifs à atteindre, les indicateurs de suivi, d'évaluation. Il y a la convention de partenariat entre les deux partenaires dans le cas où il existe. Un rapport succinct sur l'expérience de la collectivité territoriale marocaine en matière de coopération décentralisée. Et dans le cas où il y aurait une coopération triangulaire, une attestation de l'agence de coopération, de l'acteur de coopération internationale dans laquelle il s'engage à mobiliser sa quote-part. Nous avons lancé le premier appel à projet au titre de 2020, en mars 2020, et cet appel à projet a donné les résultats ci-après. Il y a 14 collectivités territoriales africaines qui ont déjà bénéficié de l'appui du fonds au titre de l'année 2020. On y trouve la région de Saint-Pedro de la Côte d'Ivoire, la région de Tombouctou du Mali, la région des Grands Ponts de la Côte d'Ivoire, la région des Hauts-Bassins du Burkina Faso, la région de Nouakchott de la Mauritanie, la commune de Cotonou du Bénin, le département de Kaolack du Sénégal, la commune de Yaoundé du Cameroun, la municipalité de Dakar du Sénégal. D'ailleurs, hier, il y a eu un exposé détaillé sur le projet qui lie la commune de Dakar et la ville de Rabat. Il y a l'arrondissement de Lobo-Dioulasso de Burkina Faso, la ville de Rufisque du Sénégal, la commune d'Abomey-Calavi du Bénin, la commune de Bobo-Dioulasso du Burkina Faso et la commune d'Abobo de la Côte d'Ivoire. La contribution du fonds au titre de 2020 s'élève à 16,27 millions de dirhams, soit presque 1 milliard de francs CFA. Et cette contribution a permis la formation de 16 managers territoriaux dans le cadre du master exécutif en management des villes africaines mis en place par l'Académie africaine de collectivité territoriale universitaire à Hawaï. Il y a eu l'octroi de 40 bourses, dont 20 en formation professionnelle et 20 en formation initiale. Il y a eu la mise à niveau de 2 places historiques à Dakar et la réalisation d'un jardin à Rufisque. Il y a eu la mise en place d'une plateforme digitale pour encourager l'entrepreneuriat entre la région de l'Oriental et la ville de Kaolack. Il y a eu le transfert de savoir-faire pour la mise en place d'agences urbaines au niveau de 4 grandes villes africaines. Il y a eu la formation de 100 femmes dans la gestion des coopératives, ainsi que l'amélioration du réseau d'assainissement liquide et de la collecte des déchets ménagers dans 3 collectivités territoriales africaines. Tels sont, mesdames et messieurs, les résultats du premier appel à projet qui a été lancé en 2020 et je suis à votre disposition pour toute question ou interrogation jugée utile. Et merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Amar, for the presentation. We can give the applause to the presenter, please. We see tips and 2 presentations, and I think we have 1 or 2 minutes, 1 or 2 questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. If not, we go to the Mentimeter exercise.
I think Abel just did a question here. He's asking when will the next call for proposals will be launched for the Moroccan government.
One question to Mr. Hammer. Monsieur Hammer, vous avez une question dans le chat.
Oui.
À quel moment se fera le prochain lancement?
Le deuxième appel à projet a été lancé le 15 février pour une durée de 3 mois. La date de clôture a été déjà épuisée. Nous avons reçu cette année 15 demandes d'appui du fonds émanant bien sûr de 15 collectivités territoriales. Nous sommes en train d'examiner ces dossiers pour annoncer avant fin juillet les résultats du deuxième appel à projet. Ce qui est proposé, c'est pour le 3e appel à projet. Il est proposé de le lancer la deuxième quinzaine du mois de janvier 2022. Si vous êtes intéressé, il faut rechercher des partenaires marocains, des collectivités territoriales. Il y a un certain nombre d'acteurs qui sont des partenaires du fonds, des partenaires institutionnels du fonds qui peuvent vous aider à chercher des partenaires nationaux. Il y a bien sûr le ministère de l'Intérieur, la Direction générale, il y a la Cité et gouvernement locaux unis, il y a l'Académie africaine des collectivités territoriales, il y a le ministère des Affaires étrangères et de la coopération africaine et des Marocains résidant à l'étranger qui est un partenaire de ce fonds, qui à travers l'ensemble des ambassades marocaines dans les pays africains, ils sont déjà sensibilisés sur ce fonds. Ils peuvent vous aider à trouver des partenaires nationaux en saisissant le ministère de l'Intérieur ou les autres partenaires pour faire un réseautage.
Thank you. Sarah, you have the floor. Raise your hand. Sarah? Mike.
Thank you very much for the both presentations. They were wonderful and very giving a lot of hope to engage. One question to the Moroccan grant. I would like to know about the role of the Moroccan local government associations, or how are the Moroccan members or Moroccan cities engaged in these projects?
Monsieur Hammer, je pense qu'on va prendre la question de Abel. Ensuite, vous répondrez aux questions. Abel, you have the floor. Abel?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank you for the presentation, and I think that this is a very good initiative from the government from Morocco, and I think that the African governments should, let's say, take also this as a good example. And as I said in the chat, fortunately these years, at least 6 municipalities submitted their proposals, and we are waiting for the results of the evaluation. And I remember that in the meeting that the second call for proposal was launched, I raised a question regarding the involvement of the local government association. I asked whether they are eligible to let's say, to also submit their proposals, and the answer was no at that time. But I'm glad to suggest, if it's possible, that the local government associations also can apply, because they are involved. They also, when it comes to city cooperation, the local governments have a key role to play in terms of facilitation, the partnerships, assist the municipalities to implement the activities, monetary evaluation. So I think that if it's possible, that the local government association also could apply, or at least have let's a budget line during the partnership between the cities, so that the local governments also have resources to assist the municipalities to implement the activities. This is suggestions for the Moroccan side. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Abel. I'll give the floor to Mr. Amar. We have 3 questions. Mr. Amar?
Par les associations, il y a la question concernant simplement le rôle des associations.
Au Maroc, et est-ce que les associations peuvent bénéficier du fonds?
Ah, d'accord.
Elles sont éligibles.
Oui, donc pour le rôle des associations, bien sûr, les 3 associations de collectivités territoriales marocaines, aussi bien celles des régions, des préfectures de province et des communes, sont membres et des partenaires stratégiques du fonds. Ils siègent au niveau des 2 comités de gouvernance mis en place pour la gestion du fonds, à savoir le comité de pilotage et le comité technique. Et ces associations ont un rôle très, très important parce qu'ils nous aident à faire un réseautage entre les collectivités territoriales marocaines et africaines. Et surtout, ils sont des membres très actifs dans les organisations internationales non gouvernementales. Donc, avec leur appui et leur plaidoyer, ils nous aident à mobiliser les acteurs. Au titre du premier et du deuxième appel à projet, uniquement les collectivités territoriales qui ont les communes, les régions et les préfectures de province ont bénéficié de l'appui du fonds, parce que c'est elles, en tant que collectivités territoriales pivot et bénéficiaires, qui ont postulé pour l'appui du fonds. Toutefois, on a remarqué au titre du deuxième appel à projet une mobilisation très importante d'une des associations, des 3 associations, et qui nous a aidés, et qui a aidé les 2 partenaires à monter les projets, bien sûr en partenariat avec l'Académie africaine et UCLG Africa, pour le montage des projets. Pour pouvoir bénéficier, je crois que c'est une question qui serait posée et une recommandation qui serait faite lors du 3e appel à projet, et c'est au comité de pilotage, qui est le comité stratégique, qui va décider dans ce sens. Merci.
Any other question?
So, Thierry, can I take the floor?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Just to complete what Mr. Amr is saying about national associations. So for the first and second call, they were not eligible. But for the third one in January next year, maybe the steering committee will take into account this request from the National Association to be among the beneficiaries of this fund. It's okay, Abel? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have a huge presentation with a lot of information. Now we move to the Mentimeter exercise. So again, you have the flow. Okay, look in the chat. We have received the link and the code.
Okay, so everyone, just before we go into the actual Mentimeter, so Fernando, can I just lead this session, right? That's cool. Just to set the scene.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. So as Fernando was saying, this part of the chapter is a really important one, and when all of us are going to be running our training sessions, there's going to be a lot of expectation around where do you get funding, okay? So it's sometimes difficult where there's lots of expectations and you're the facilitator and everyone relies on you to provide the answers. So in designing this module, we felt that it would be important using a case study, right? To be able to get group participation for everyone to share their own ideas on how you can mobilize resources to make decentralized cooperation work. So I think that's the first point that it's important to note. Now, I was just looking at my camera and I see most of the cameras are off. And I know we are like 20-25 minutes late, running late. But if I can ask everyone to take their right hand and just stretch it right up for 1001, 1002. Can I just see everyone's right hand stretching right back? And then keep it there and take your left hand and stretch it right up. There we go. There we go. Just stretch. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, okay, great. So now we're all back together. If we had more time, we would have done a yoga pose if we were in the classroom situation. And I know everyone is tired, but this is an important exercise that we're going to be doing. So in your modules, in your documents, we have a case study, right? And so everyone said, hey, Sugail, maybe you want to read this case studies. This case study is called Tips for Jose, and it was deliberately written for international training. And each of, when we're doing our own training, we can tailor make it to suit your own regional context, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the tips for Jose. And is it also available, Fernando, on the screen somewhere, or is everyone just going to be listening to me? Yes?
And they are going to be listening to you.
Okay, so I better put on a really good voice.
Yes.
Okay. So, so just imagine these tips were made available to everyone in your setting. You're the facilitator, you're reading out the tips, and you're going to do an exercise. The intention of this exercise is to get group participation on how to mobilize funding. Okay, so here goes. Jose Oliveira was normally very skeptical about international workshop training. He generally felt that it was a waste of time and money. For him, these resources could be better spent if they were used to help the poorest of the poor in his city, San Luis in Maranhão, northeastern Brazil. Okay, so the case study is set in Brazil. However, this training was somehow different. It was intense, like the one we're on now, but very well structured. And over the last day and a half, he had learned so much about how municipalities and regions all over the world were working together to bring meaningful change into the lives of people that they serve. As an official in the urban planning unit, he had heard of the term decentralized cooperation from his colleagues in Sao Paulo. Now, however, for the first time, he knew exactly what it meant, how it developed over the years, its benefits, and how it was helping to connect the international with the local. He was also very excited as he had learned how to put together a simple but really effective policy for his municipality. Remember yesterday our policy? And how its local stakeholders could work together. Now everyone could come together and be clear about how they could form partnerships and who they'd form partnerships with, and how they'd help solve daily challenges. However, Jose had heard that it was impossible to run international cooperation projects without donor funding. He had heard on the grapevine that international funding was not as easily as available as it had been many years before. This was really sad, he thought, as he knew deep in his heart that many poor countries, like his own, had suffered decades of underdevelopment and really needed resources to lift them out of their cycles of urban poverty and deprivation. Worse still, unlike Sao Paulo, his was only a small, little-known city without an international profile and with many competing priorities. Furthermore, COVID-19 had taken its toll on the local economy in so many ways, and that kept him awake at night. He was not sure if it was even worth thinking about decentralized cooperation projects if there was no grant funding available. Where would he access the funds from? How would he start the process? If there was no grant funding, should he just abandon this whole idea? After all, you know the saying, go big or go home. So should he just give up right now? Okay, so that's the case study. It would be photocopied, everyone would have it in the room. Maybe it's face-to-face training, everyone would run a proper stretch. If not, you're doing it online. And we felt that to get the discussion going, we can use Mentimeter. So if those of us don't know about Mentimeter, it's very, very simple. And on the chat, we explained how to go there. Where you go and you go into www.mentimeter and you click it, and then we answer a question. So I'm just double checking whether everyone managed to go to Mentimeter and they've got that code to punch in. So can we just do a quick check? Okay.
I'm having some trouble with the page, so please be patient.
Okay.
I'm also having problems getting in.
Okay, so Juan has helped us. In our chat, you'll see you can click through. So can we just try clicking that and see if that's going to take us in there? Remember, it's all a learning experience and all part of the process.
The link didn't help for me. It took me to like a picture. I'm going to try the...
Okay, so let's improvise. In the interest of time, because we're nearly half an hour late, let's just... Is it working?
It's fine, yes. Julia. You just make click on the heart and then you can continue.
Oh, then it goes through. You're right. It was just very slow.
Well, okay, is it working? So the question that we're asking is, we've all heard the case study. Here's poor despondent Jose. He doesn't know what to do. And all of us in our group working together are trying to help poor Jose. Do we want to tell him, hey, let's just cancel everything. We'd have no donor funding. Yes, through colonization, we're always screwed in poor areas. We've got nothing to do. Let's just be depressed. Or what advice would you share with Jose, right? And using Mentimeter, if our technology works, and Sarah's saying it does, we want to offer tips to him. So based on some of the tips already shared by Fernando, based on some exciting news from Moroccan government, etc., or just thinking about it yourself around what advice can we share with Jose? What tips can you give him? And you just start to use the little blue box and you start typing something and you submit, and you can submit as many answers that you want to, and you can vote. So let's just see how it's going. Okay, so I've just tested mine and I voted. So I'm going back to my main screen and I'm just going to read out some answers. So someone is suggesting find local motivation, maybe school teachers and counselors, so you're not alone. Very interesting. Local motivation, right? School teachers and counselors. So that feeling of being alone, don't feel alone, right? If I had a good singing voice, I'll go into Michael Jackson's song, You Are Not Alone. Okay, so how do you mobilize everyone to say, hey, you're not alone, we're all in this together. Chat to your colleagues in other departments to see if you can find more transversal support. Brilliant, right? So we spoke about teachers, we spoke about counselors. He's from the urban planning department. But what about the economic development? What about international relations? What about the other units? So getting the other colleagues to work together. Find an interesting project, sorry, just go back, find an interesting project that suits him in best practice forums and identify a possible LRG partner. Excellent. So think about which partner you can work with using the best practices platforms. We're going back to modalities now. Brilliant. If you can go a little higher up on Mentimeter, he should consider multi-stakeholder collaboration so that he can pull technical and financial resources. Brilliant, right? Shortly, we're going to be getting to look at partnerships just now, and Sarah Benz will take us through some ideas. How do we start getting multi-stakeholder collaboration? Brilliant. Map existing local resources available at local level. Look at local taxes, land-based revenues from diaspora. Brilliant suggestion. Look for local funding from both public and private. Work with universities. Yes, you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay consultants to do research to structure. Work with local universities. A nice one. Don't give up, Jose. I like that. Reach out to the private sector. Let's scroll a little higher up if we can. Reach out to a National Association for Information. That's brilliant. Working with the National Association. Very clear. Build plan A, plan B, plan C. Brilliant. So we're linking. Remember our point just now about having a clear log frame. Excellent. Access funds through answering calls for projects by funding agencies. Participate in LRG networks. Work with other LRGs. Okay, I think we certainly have lots and lots of tips, and I'm not going to go through each one, but if we can just get a sense of it, working with universities, finding an inter-stakeholder consultation, thinking about partnerships, engaging the private sector, letting him partner with other stakeholders, attending relevant platforms, reaching to organizers, setting a clear list of needs, explore crowdfunding, find local funding. Okay, this is wonderful. This is really excellent. It's good for us because certainly as the team that put it together, we can see how we're drawing on all of the information. One, two, we can see how Mentimeter is working, even though we might not have used it together as an online platform. Jose needs to set up long-term and medium-term results. Brilliant, again, reflecting on long-term and medium-term. Attending seminars. So this is excellent. I think as an exercise, we've managed to achieve the outcome, which is to use the energy in the group and ideas, not to feel despondent and not to say that you have to be reliant on donor funding. And in our African context, to say there are lots of opportunities to make this happen. So I think we'll end it there. Thank you so much. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you, Sogan. Thank you, Sogan. Let me give the upload. Now we move on to our next session about partnership. And partnership, we have a lot of things. We will listening Sarah and also Maria about this issue of partnership. But let me share some experience with you. I just returned from a 3-day brainstorming session with UNFPA, regional bureau based in Dakar, who are experimenting with capturing the demographic dividend in 3 municipalities in Dakar. They are very excited about the result and speak very highly of the partnership. Within the UN, they observe 1 UN work around this initiative, how to capture the demographic dividend. And they also succeed to bring around the table partners for private sector, civil society, academic sector, and other organizations to solve the problem who are in that municipality. We have 3 municipalities, a big issue of poverty, a lack of resources, but a lot of demands. And This initiative shows they can work together. You can bring ideas and work with the other partner in close partnership to build something. The first output they have actually is a health center. And the beneficiary of that action are very proud and want to go far first, go far, because they see how the partnership can't change the thing in the territory. Now let me give the floor to Sarah. They will talk about decentralized cooperation, a playground for SDG 17.
Thank you very much, Thierry, and hello again to all. So thank you to Sogen as well for this very interactive exercise on the situation of Jose. And I'm delighted that we had so many responses and that a big majority of these responses really reflected this next chapter, this next lecture, which is really the one on unpacking SDG 17, which is the SDG strengthening the means of implementation and revitalizing the global partnership for sustainable development. So partnership is really at the core, and we're going to touch upon some of the guiding principles of this SDG and the tools that it proposes and offers also to the implementers of the 2030 agenda. So I think you all know a lot about partnerships already. I don't know what I'm going to teach you actually in the end of this lecture, but I'm looking forward to receiving your feedback as well on what is most important for you. But we all know that already in the third day of training, SDGs really depend strongly on global, national, local partnerships and cooperation to really be implemented to the fullest. And it is really something that is built upon principles, values, upon a shared vision and shared goals that place people, the planet, at the center of everything, together with prosperity, of course, and partnership in the spirit of peace. So these are the 5 Ps for those who may know about it, that are linked into the 2030 agenda. So when you think especially about the past year that we've all experienced with COVID-19, we notice that no one can actually overcome this pandemic alone, and that global solidarity has become really a moral imperative. It's in everyone's interest. It has been shown and reinforced multiple times during all of the different waves that we are facing. And strong cooperation was really found, especially at the local and regional levels across the globe, without even hesitating. Cities and regions have connected with each other to help each other and to support, share experience. They were looking for experience and solutions. And so this is really something that has strengthened our work on localizing the SDGs together and is helping us really build back better and recover from the pandemic. So what is SDG 17? It is really actually the toolbox of the 2030 agenda. It really provides key information on the means of implementation. It helps guide all the stakeholders and navigate through the roadmap that is the 2030 agenda with the other 16 SDGs. It defines modalities, and it is divided into 5 macro categories, 19 targets, and 25 indicators that we will look at in a few minutes. So it's really going into the heart of the 2030 agenda. It's a goal that calls for coherence. It calls for interconnections, partnerships, planning, and also monitoring. And it moves away from this traditional one-to-one partnership and encourages people to enter into a multiple stakeholder, multiple level partnership, triangular or even bigger, that requires really different types of coordination, different types of support, and most of these are found within the SDG 17 framework and guidelines. So it's especially important actually for local and regional governments, because it is at the local level that coherent policies can be developed to address the multiple challenges of poverty reduction and sustainable development. So really local governments are in this ideal position to encourage and facilitate partnerships between the different bodies of the public sector, but also together with the private sector, who they work with very actively, and civil society. And as you have shown as well in the answers that you've provided just before, you thought of reaching out to the academia sector, to the private sector, to your government, national government, to your national associations. So you have already this different horizontal partnership in mind and vertical partnership in mind as well. And local and regional governments are really key to help safeguard the coherence between different relations as well, because they're at the center and they have this coordinating role. So SDG 17 is also crucial for local and regional governments because it focuses a lot on financing as well, as we will see shortly, and local tax and revenue generation must play its part in financing sustainable development. And then, of course, as well, local and regional governments have been very active at the international scene. They have been collaborating and contributing very much to the international discussion for now over 100 years, and foster SDG implementation through the localization of SDGs, through decentralized cooperation. And this is becoming increasingly recognized as well at the UN level, with a dedicated space now provided to local and regional governments within the upcoming high-level political forum. VLRs, so voluntary local reviews, as we know, are gaining visibility and are being recognized as a key tool also to measure progress. So local regional governments have an essential seat at the table. They're starting to get a bigger one, and we should really continue working towards this. So next slide, please. We're going to dig in a bit more into the technicalities of SDG 17, and this may scare you when you see this at first, but really, believe me, it's an easy one to understand. I don't know if it's possible to click one step behind so that we just see the, yeah, exactly, perfect, just the circle, no, not the small information around it. It's fine otherwise, don't worry. We can just stay here. Yes, perfect, thank you. So here you can see what I've been mentioning. So these are the macro, the different segments of SDG 17. So we have the macro categories, which are highlighted in dark blue. Then we have the different targets, and we have also the different indicators. And if we focus on the macro categories, so we can see what SDG 17 actually encompasses. So as mentioned, it focuses on finance, it focuses on technology, on capacity building, so the learning and the sharing. It has a big trade dimension as well, which is crucial. It really is the core of partnerships as well. That's how we started partnering with others for economic reasons as well. And then the systemic issues that are, for instance, policy coherence, data and monitoring, and also, it's a little bit small for my screen, I can't remember the last one, but it's a multi-stakeholder partnership dimension. So for this, you can see, as mentioned also just before, local governments have a crucial role to play in every single element of this circle. So now if we move on to the next animation of the slide, exactly, thank you. We're going to dig deeper a little bit into some of the SDG targets and some of the SDG indicators of SDG 17, just to showcase really the crucial elements of partnership, of decentralized cooperation, and what it means for local and regional governments. So we're going to start in no specific order with SDG 17.14, which is cooperation to enhance policy coherence for sustainable development. And so this I had already briefly introduced prior. It's the point that a well-designed decentralized cooperation process really can ensure the transfer of skills and expertise by designing simple, effective, and implementable policies and deliver purposed outcomes. So some cities are more skillful than others, some cities have more experience than others, and it is important for us to share with each other the different ways in which we engage with our partners, so that we can make sure that we have the best experiences in hand and that we implement our policies and strategies in a very coherent manner that also can complement other policies and strategies implemented by other stakeholders beyond. So really local governments are good candidates to offer lessons to others that want to develop their own context-specific practices. So really policy coherence is key to ensure that we really contribute positively to each other's work, and that we limit especially the negative effects of our work on other people, on other places, on other projects. So it's also important for us to consider vertical policy coherence, between levels of governance. The work that is done at the national level should not affect negatively what is done at local level, and vice versa. How can local projects as well implement and enhance national and European and international ambitions? And the horizontal policy coherence, which is really how to work better with stakeholders from different category or different groups, and to make sure that what the public sector does doesn't affect negatively the private, or what the private does doesn't negatively affect the civil society, for instance. So it's to keep in mind that there is this thing called the butterfly effect, and that one small thing that happens in one place can have a bigger impact somewhere else. So it's also something that is very much defended by SDG 17, and that local and governments can really help safeguard. So moving to SDG 17 target 18, this one is calling upon interventions to improve data collection capacities. So data, as we have also noticed in the work that we've done together with the case study on engendering SDGs, is crucial if we want to monitor the outcomes, outputs, actions, activities of our log frames, of our projects. We need to have the right data to be sure that we're on track with the ambitions that we've set for ourselves. So planning can really greatly be improved by collecting valuable baseline data and linking it to territorial references and mapping. And there are plenty of examples, and I invite you really to have a look at the module to look at and find out more about them from different areas of the world. Brazil sharing experiences with municipalities in Mozambique, surveying, pilot methodologies that are put in place in different neighborhoods. And really it has all excellent demonstration of localization of SDGs through decentralized cooperation. Target 17.16. Which is mobilizing and sharing knowledge, expertise, and technology to support the achievement of the SDGs. So many decentralized cooperation initiatives focus on sharing knowledge and expertise. And this is what we're doing today with our learning and our training. We're really trying to make sure that we help each other the most. And really it's proof actually of the utility of connecting and exchanging. All perspectives are always valid. Everyone continues to learn from each other and to grow. And this is also something that the Sustainable Development Agenda is putting forward compared to the previous development agenda, which were the Millennium Development Goals, is that it's really everyone is put on an equal level playing field, and partnerships are no longer a donor-recipient kind of a partnership, but really a win-win-win type of a format. So over the last decade, we really seen more lateral, so South-South cooperation that are emerging, involving bilateral technical exchanges, triangular cooperation, as I've mentioned, and these types of cooperation are more easily initiated actually at the local level. So it's where we have a lot of room to grow. And there's another example of the International Labour Organization that has been working with UCLG, for instance, to improve capacities of local actors through South-South and triangular cooperation by focusing notably on employment, local economic development, and integration of the informal sector. So I invite you to find out more as well in the module. And we're going to end with one of my favorite targets, which is the promotion of multi-stakeholder partnerships. So it's really the role of local and regional governments also that are successfully implementing effective partnerships between critical stakeholders at the center, reuniting them all: business, civil society, academia, trade unions, different types of authorities from different levels. The SDGs are really easy to understand. They are considered relevant by most stakeholders. They make it easier to connect projects, and they provide really this language that is understood by all. It's a baseline language that helps to connect across the world. So it's really the spirit of SDG 17. And with that, now I hope you have a little bit more understanding of what it means to work on a decentralized cooperation partnership and how you contribute so actively to implementing the 2030 agenda through this means. So I'm going to stop here because I think I'm running out of time and I maybe already went over time. I'm very sorry about that. But you can spend a lot of time talking about SDG 17, and I'm happy to talk about it more with you if you have questions.
Thank you, Sarah. You succeed to explain a complex picture in 10 words. It's not easy to to understand, but I think when I see and listen, we need to create toolbox to help each partner to master and use the framework of that SDGs. We are late. Let me normally actually we will go to the training challenge animated by Maria. Maria, are you here?
Yes, thank you. So since we are a little bit late in time, just to flag some of the questions that we had on content, which one for Oscar Nicera, that he said that he would also like to get to the website for regular updates on calls for the proposal on the fund. This is specifically for the Fund of Morocco. So maybe UCLG Africa and Najat can just, as they say, they will disseminate the website on the call of Morocco for financing decentralized cooperation. So that will be the first one that we have on content. So maybe we can go on the training challenges, and maybe here we can see, as we did last time, with different questions. If you find actually the lectures that we have today, if they were clear, and if you actually feel that you are ready to replicate them with the information that you have now. And also, if you find the two exercises, the one of the log framework and the one of the tips of Jose, if you find them both, if you find them that they work well. So if you want to answer that in the chat, we will truly appreciate that. Anybody? So maybe this is something that we can discuss with the other training challenges that we have been identifying for today, and of course in the discussions that we had yesterday. So maybe we can just pass by, just waiting for our colleagues to comment. So yesterday we talked about the amount of information that we have in the training. We also talked about the need for more examples and to have a team training for conducting this. So we identified that maybe perhaps it can seem to be a lot, but and the module is big. It's a big module. But what we wanted to transfer to you is that the first thing that you have to know is that you don't have to do the whole module in one specific training session. You can we actually design it to be a modular module. So you have 6 different chapters, and these different chapters you can actually see and evaluate and do an assessment on your own context to see whether you are more interested in having the part of I don't know, partnerships, or having the part of the narrative, or having the part of communication. Like, for example, when we started doing this work with Najat and with Charles and with all the team with UCL Africa, they identified that for their members, they would need more focus on funding, South-South cooperation, the capacity building on doing log frames. So this is why we actually spend longer time and tried to identify different case studies and do different exercises to put this into consideration. So you have to see that when you read the module is written in a way that is very facilitating. It's a very easy read. You have seen by the lectures given by Sogen that, and he was the one that was reading the module, that he has a very good way of explaining stuff. So everything is translated into that. In the module, we have around 12 exercises, but you can choose from the different exercises which one accommodates you better. And as you have been also seen in this training of trainers, we have been using a lot of different resources. We have been using videos from previous lectures. We have been inviting people that have come from and that have given the lecture before. We have motivated new people to actually come and make it their own and throw themselves to the pool and do, I take this lecture, I can do it. And we are all passing through this experience. So it can seem a lot, but you can certainly do this kind of training. We have also used different methodologies for engaging people. We have used the Mentimeter, we have used Mural,
we have been using and we're going to be using tomorrow. Just assume a small discussion. So you can for sure use a lot of different parts. And with the examples, there are a lot of examples in the module, but it is also very useful for you to find different examples that accommodate to your context. And I think that in the way when you are looking for these examples, you will also find different stuff, and you also are able to strengthen your network of partners. So that is a good way also, it's a good possibility that the module and that this training of trainer gives you to enlarge your community of partners. So I think that for this, you'll tell me if we cover that. I think we have some comments. Here the lecture was clear, but the time on the exercise was not sufficient to dive into all the aspects of the log frame. You are totally right. And I think like it's because we're doing this in a week. So let's think that you just take one chapter by week or one chapter, and you can accommodate this and just give and make it bigger. This is okay. People have shared the link for Oscar's question. Here, let organize in-person learning for impact among trainees. That's a suggestion of Olwalo to have a meeting with the learning team and also with UCLG Africa team. So we both teams take that into consideration. Najat, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, Maria. Just to say that in the chat, you will find the link to the portal of the ministry, where you will have more information about the Moroccan Fund and about how we will deploy or coordinate the module. Tu peux enlever l'interprétation, s'il te plaît? We can discuss later how we will do it, and we will take into account each region. So maybe we will organize it on 1 week or in like a cycle. We can do 2 chapters, and then after we give some exercise to do and come back to do the other chapters. But it's a matter of discussion and preparation between all the partners involved in this exercise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Najat. So maybe we can go forward. Sorry? Okay, so here we have another thing that was brought up, to have a buddy, how do I pronounce it? Like a friend system, let's say it, in the delivery of initial training. Actually, that is what we are doing. This is our work, and I think this should be taken into account to have a very well trained, I mean, a system of partners that go each other, and it is really a co-creating process. Not any training is the same. We have a same guide, but not any training is, I mean, the training are not the same, because they have to be adapted to what you need and what your members need. Training tools and methodologies in light of COVID, that we will cover that regarding the use of Mural, of Mentimeter. For example, for the basic, if you find Mural that could be maybe kind of challenging, we have also adapted some of the exercises just to be in Mentimeter. The bicycle exercise that we all built in the first day, we also do it in a way of Mentimeter for people to accommodate themselves. So I think we can cover this. Maybe we can pass through to the other one. Okay, can you go to the next one? And to the next one. Thank you. So here I give the floor to Sarah, that has a proposal, a specific proposal for this.
Yes, thank you very much. Just as tomorrow, it will be our last day. So for example, we already know that Musa Olwalo wants to do a training. And so he will give us a very simple idea, but just this is a checklist, and maybe also for others of you who could already identify, maybe Genevieve, I don't know who else, please let us know. So we make very short time tomorrow, 5 minutes each, so you can announce what kind of training you see doing yourself, coordinating, and what are the needs to do this training. So this is a very simple checklist. The first piece is, of course, a target group. Who is my target group? Is it political? Is it technical? How do I involve the association, networks, or consultants, or universities? Is it a specific group, youth, gender, or open? Intermediary cities, larger, whatever. Number of participants. Here you have seen our training was very big. So of course, this training is also very good with 10 participants. My contents. So what are the contents? Maria Alejandra already said, there are 6 chapters. It's not at all needed to do everything, but what do you consider? Would you roll out, or maybe which chapter you might make more short or rely on videos? What kind of games do you like? Do you feel you could do? And are local practices in your context available? So as we have seen, we have tried now here to have African practices. And that, of course, translates if you do it in Tanzania to Tanzanian practices, or in Namibia to Namibian practices, and so on. Then my human resource needs regarding trainers and personnel. So don't be shy to say, okay, I will not do this on myself. I need so many fellows here and there. You can, of course, also try here to use this network, because we have some trainers which maybe like to cooperate between each other. And the operational needs, so for an on-site training, they are very different, but you also need to think in a room, in color cards, pens, beamer, if you provide food, etc. And what would be operational needs for a virtual training? So there is a problem with the connection, the availability, and all of course, the skills, on Zoom, Mural, what we have seen now. Then the 4th chapter is who would be my partners. As you have seen, it is very enriching. We involve partners. So this time we have involved, I think it was very good to have the Moroccan national government, because this is a possible collaborator, but also with Platforma, we have, of course, here an angle to the European Commission. In your training, who would it be? Would it be maybe some possibility for funding also, or collaboration? Who would be my co-trainers, if partners can be co-trainers? And first, what is the most important point for tomorrow? What is my first step to plan a training? So actually for tomorrow, this question, what will be my first step to plan a training, will be enough to answer. You do not need to go through the whole checklist. This is just to help the persons who have already volunteered and showed interest. So we do not want to let this opportunity out, to help you to plan, and also to establish a little working group to coach any training you might want to do. Thank you very much. Back to Maria.
Okay, I think we are ready to close our day 3. And just to mention before giving the floor to Thierry, that we'll be sending the checklist by mail, but for tomorrow we are going to be having some exercises that need you to be reading something. So we will be sending you the material this afternoon. I pass the floor to Thierry, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria. Let me first say thank you to the participants. Thank you to the lecturer. And thank you to Sogen and Fernando to the tips. We have done 4 cognitive sessions today, and we learned a lot. We learned about how to design an impactful SDG linked to DC project. We see we are for action and a lot of tasks we need to go deeper in each.
You are interrupted, Thierry. Thierry, we lost you.
I'm here. Okay. During the crisis, we see a lot of interesting things on project management. Now we can find some link between framework. We need to use your agility to take interesting one framework to other and build a project management framework. We can link them and we need to link them because if we take each framework, we can deliver all want the stakeholder, the donor, the partner, the population, the citizen. We need to mix. We need to mix. And if your framework is comprehensive, the donor will go with you. Don't focus on one, but see how we can manage the different kind of framework who exist actually. We also see how to go to find money, and it's one of the main issue on development is to have money to implement our project. And we see Fernando share a lot of tips with us, and we use it. We use it a lot. We understand. We see two projects, but I don't see a lot of question on the International Solidarity Fund, but a lot of interesting of Morocco Fund. And I hope the city were around the table who will apply to the next fund launched to January 2022. And we finalize our day with the decentralized cooperation, specifically the SDG 17 about partnership. We talk about partnership since the first day of this training, and the partnership is around us, and we need to work to see how to. Let me share something about that. The fourth revolution about communication, information, etc., extend our limits, and we need to take advantage on that and link with the partnership and other SDGs to go far. And we understand the presentation of Sarah, but we need to think, go far to use the fourth revolution and other things who are in the ground. We need to go to connect the dot. We have a lot of dot now. We have data, we have tools, we have a lot of initiative, but we don't have time, but we have partner, and we can work with them to go far. And we also talk about our challenge. Let me just remember project management and fundraising are jobs. You need to go further, to continue to see how we can use that data tool to improve the DC. Actually, we need to work with the man who know effectively how to use to use these two ways, the project management and the fundraising. Thank you again for participants. Actually, we are 37. Sometimes we are 43. Thank you again, and good afternoon to all.
See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you, Thierry.
Thank you.
Yes. Just
Bye,
a reminder for the organizers to stay on.
Merci. Thank you, Sarah.